Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, it's obviously another live feed, and today I'm going to talk about the importance of building a good, solid, strong aerobic base. And I'll talk about kind of the pitfalls that people fall into when they start to try and build up. Look, we're two weeks into start the new year. I think a lot of people have kind of started on their new life regime, their new health kick. They're trying to get fit and fast, whatever like that. And today I'm just going to talk about some of the pitfalls you might come across if you're 2 weeks into it now. If you've only just started, if you're a new runner, I'm 48. I've been running for 25 years. I did my first marathon 25 years ago. I've done 26 marathons to date. I've done a heap of half Ironman races and some Ironman races as well. So yeah, today we're going to talk about kind of the importance of building the base and then what it is you should do if you want to kind of build a solid foundation of fitness and endurance that you can build on. And therefore, as you go forward with your kind of health and fitness and whatever training it is you want to do, and particularly if you want to do some events, that you have the best chance of kind of staying injury-free and making sure that you arrive at those events feeling fit and healthy, because it's fine getting fit, but you want to make sure that you're healthy too. So I think what we're going to do, I'll start off, there's kind of three major things that I talk about, when I talk about who I coach, I tell them that they should kind of follow these particular things. And when I coach people, these are kind of the three principles that I keep in my mind when I'm trying to get somebody. I'm always trying to get people better at running, but I'm also trying to get them fitter and healthier too. I think health should be the primary objective of all kind of fitness and health regimes. So what we'll do is, when you start out at the beginning of the year, so if you've started kind of in early January and said, right, I'm going to start running this year, I'm going to get back into running, if you've had a hiatus away from it, or if you've just kind of realized now that you want to get a little bit fitter, you might have a bit of a sedentary life and decide that you want to do some running. The question that I think should be asked, that most people don't ask, is why most people fail when they start. So why do people fall off the wagon around about now? We're 15 days into the year. So, and I think what it is, I think a lot of people rely they rely a lot on motivation. So they might have started the year, when I ended the year thinking, right, as soon as January comes, I'm going to start this. I'm going to start running every day. And they're super motivated to get going. But what you find is very, very quickly after you've started, you'll find straight away that the motivation doesn't last very long. In fact, it doesn't last long at all. And if you've decided this time is different, you've kind of set some goals, you've decided that you're going to overhaul your whole life. It's like, that'll be fine for a few days. You'll get away with it. It'll feel amazing. But what you find is, after a couple of days, maybe a week or two, 10 days at best, you'll find that reality bites. You go back to work, and it's like, if you've changed too much, it starts to become very difficult. And that's what I want to talk about first. It's like, why does burnout happen for the majority of people who started off on some sort of a new health and fitness regime at the start of the year will have fallen off the wagon by now, or if they haven't, maybe in the next 10 days, they're going to fall off the wagon. And the reason why that is it starts out that people just try to, like I said, they rely on motivation, but they have these goals that are just not achievable, or maybe not so much that they're not achievable, that is that they can't see themselves achieving it. So they're kind of setting almost like unrealistic goals to begin with. They don't have the consistency. So basically what I say is, if you don't have the foundation, the base to build on, then it's very hard to start off with this kind of big structure. So what I mean by that is, people start at the year and they'll say, right, I'm going to start running. Let's say you've had a hiatus from running, or you're just started. They say, right, I'm going to run 3 times a week. And I'm going to run, let's say I'm going to run 5K in each of those 3 times a week. Well, if you're not used to running, if you haven't been doing a little bit of running, building up to that, you might have some friends that will tell you that 5K 3 times a week is not, to me, that's very low volume. That would be very easy for me to achieve. But I've been running for a very long time. So if you haven't run for a long time, this is what I mean about these. To do that, to start off with running 3 times 5K a week, it might just be a little bit daunting. And your goal to do it might be a little bit realistic. And you might want to kind of adjust down and maybe do some other things, which I'll talk about as we go through this video, that will help you build that kind of solid base. And therefore, once you have the solid base built, you have some consistency with it, you can then start to build and add to it that way, instead of trying to do it all at once. Because if you try to do too much too soon, if you haven't got the base built already, and if your goals seem a little bit unrealistic, these are the people who are going to fall off the wagon, like, 2 weeks, 10 days, 2 weeks into the new year, which is, like I said, we're around that area now. So what does a strong foundation actually mean? So having a good, solid, strong foundation, it's like, it's, some people, when they start out their kind of fitness kick at the start of the year, they decide that they kind of develop what they write down what they want to do, and what they're doing is they're designing an ideal life for themselves. So they're saying, this is ideally what I want to do. But your life isn't ideal, because if it was ideal, then you would be living that life. Okay, you would have been doing it already. So what they've done is they've designed an ideal life, but that doesn't fit into their actual life. So you need to sit down and think about what you can actually do. You know, what time you have during the week, what evenings can you run, what mornings can you run, what can you fit into your busy schedule already, because we all have busy schedules. And if you try to fit in too much, it becomes too hard to maintain. And that's why people won't be able to build consistency, and they always blame it that they don't have the motivation to do it. And it's not that they don't have motivation. None of us have motivation all the time. It's that you built this ideal life and you're trying to fit it into your actual life, and the two variables just don't marry very well. So what I say to people is, if you've decided, let's say we take the person talked about earlier, decide you're going to run 3 times 5K a week. If you realistically think that might be a little bit too much, or if you're not enjoying it, or if you don't think that you can sustain that, I would say start with a little bit less. Maybe start with just, running at 2K twice a week, and then 5K, and then do that for a couple of weeks and build some consistency and get yourself kind of know that you can do it, and then you can start to build on it from there. If some days you go out and you actually feel that you have the impetus to do a little bit more, then by all means you can add a little bit more. But just maybe if you're writing stuff down, just try to, like I say to people, instead of going all in, kind of go half in at the start of the year. That way, if you plan to run 3 times a week, run 2K, and 3 times a week you do 4 kilometers, that's going to build a lot of confidence in yourself that you can do this, right? So you started off small. You've got the small, easy goals because, you've achieved the small, easy goals because you've made them very attainable, you've made them very realistic, and you've made them fit into your actual life, not your ideal life. And when you do that, you'll get this kind of really self-confidence about yourself that you can do it, and you'll get the kind of belief in yourself that you can keep going. And I always tell people, at the end of your first week, you shouldn't be looking for progress. You should be looking for consistency. Same with week 2, same with week 3, all the way up to week 6. Don't be looking for consistency. The consistency, or don't be looking for progress. The progress will come if you just have the consistency. So I always tell people, like I said, go half in, okay? Give yourself loads of wiggle room, and just start with some easy goals that are very, very achievable. So if you think you can run, 3 times 5K a week, like I said, start with 3 times 2K. And if you get that, by all means, brilliant. And if you add an extra day, that's great. And that's the sort of stuff that's going to kind of give you that mind shift, that's kind of make you feel that you can continue on this journey, make you feel that you can add to yourself, that you can get to this ideal lifestyle, but not from the word go. You can get to this ideal lifestyle. Maybe it might take you a month, maybe it might take you 3 months, maybe it might take you 6 months. It doesn't have to all happen now. If you finish your week off thinking that it was really difficult and it's going to be really hard to duplicate the amount of exercise you did one week into the next week, it means that you've started too hard, you've done too much. I would say trim it all back and just go for making sure that you hit the days of the amount of times you ran instead of the amount of distance that you ran. So, if you say you want to run 3 times a week, run 3 times a week and don't really worry too much about the distance that you're going to do in that time. And then the third principle that I would talk about is, if you start out with too much, you're going to hit burnout really quickly. So start small, start way smaller than you think you should. And like I said, give yourself that wiggle room. And then the other thing is this is the really important thing that I tell people all the time is, if you get that, if you run your 3 times a week, let's say you're running 5K 3 times a week, and you find that fits into your schedule, or you've built up from running 2K twice a week and 5K, and you've built it up, you've got up to a point where you feel happy that you can go out 3 times a week, but you want to add a little bit more to it. I would say is use the habits that you have. So if you're running 3 times a week, to add in more kind of healthy habits. So what I do is, or what you could do is, if you want to do a little bit of strength exercise as well. So let's say you want to start running, but you want to start doing some gym work as well. I would say hold off on joining the gym, because it's just going to be too much trying to add an extra event that you need to do. And maybe for the first month is just when you come home from your run, just get on the floor, do a couple of ab curls, do a couple of squats, do a couple of push-ups. If you have some dumbbells at home, do some bicep curls, some shoulder press, maybe hold them and do some squats. And do that after you run. Just give yourself the goal of doing it for 10 minutes after you run. So in 10 minutes, you could do 2 sets of squats, 2 sets of ab curls, 2 sets of bicep curls, shoulder press, and a chest press. And do some one-arm rows as well. That's a whole body workout. You could do 2 sets of 15. 100% you can get that done in 10 minutes. And then that will give you the confidence that now not only can you run a couple of times a week, but you can also add in a little bit of strength work as well. And again, get a habit of doing that, build into it. And if you get a couple of weeks where you're able to, you've started off a couple of weeks, you've done your running, then you've a couple of weeks where you've added in the strength work. Then maybe when you got that kind of ingrained into your life, what you can do then is maybe take the doing that gym session away, or the strength session away, and just run for a little bit longer. And then maybe say, right, I'll actually pay that gym membership, knowing now that you're actually going to use it. And then instead of doing 3 times a week, doing 10 minutes of gym work after your run at home, say, right, I'm just going to do one session a week, 40 minutes in the gym, and just get a whole body workout where you do a couple of different sets and stuff like that. I think something like that will be really good, really important. I have an opportunity, or I have an option to be a member of this channel. It costs $1.99 a month, and starting from this weekend, I'm going to start adding up all the videos of the home exercise that I do. So I'll be adding in doing the 10-minute, strength and conditioning stuff that I do when I come in from runs. I'll be adding in all the mobility stuff. I'll be adding in the little stretch. They'll all be 10, 15 minutes, and they're all going to go onto that kind of, it's like a members feature on the channel where, like I said, it's $1.99, and that's a monthly payment. And what you can do with that, if you have any stuff that you want me to do videos on, you just send me an email and I'll do a video, 10, 15, 20-minute video, whatever it is you want. So that is an option that is there. Yeah, so that's what you do. So you've started off, you've ran a couple of times a week. You've built it into a habit where you do it for 2 or 3 weeks. Then, you like I said, we compound, we put habits on top of habits. So we start doing our 10 minutes strength and conditioning when we come in from that run. You get off a couple of weeks, then you join the gym. And then once you've got that, you're running 3 times a week now, you go to the gym. That's where you can start to think, if you're managing all that, it's going well, and that's enough, then just go with that and build from there. If you think that you can add more to it, then that's where you can add in another day, maybe get to 4 days a week. And then once you've got to that, then if you do build up to getting yourself where you're running 4 days a week, that's where you really need to start to then structure your training. So you'll probably have to start adding in some sort of, change the runs around. So one, like an easy run, an interval run, another easy run, and a long run, and then get into or a longer run. And then once you get into that for a couple of weeks, you can start to add some sort of structure to that longer run. And doing all that sort of stuff is going to make you, if you do that for 3 months, 3 months to 4 months, you're going to be really fit, you're going to be really fast, and your body is going to change unbelievably from what it is now if you can commit to that for a couple of weeks. But if you start off right out the bat saying, right, I'm running 4 times a week, I'm going to do 10K 4 times a week, I'm going to join the gym, I'm going to go to the gym twice a week, I'm going to drink protein shakes, I'm going to get up early and have porridge for my breakfast, I'm going to go to bed early, I'm not going to eat this anymore, I'm not going to have wine anymore, and you start adjusting everything in your life, building this ideal life. I guarantee you won't last more than 10 days to 2 weeks. If you're really, really good, a lot better than me, you might get 3 weeks. Some people I've seen before get 4 weeks, but going past 4 weeks, unless you're a Tibetan monk, then just having the ability to kind of stay on that track when you've done so many drastic changes in your life, I think if you get to a month, you're doing really well. And usually what happens is when that happens to somebody and they do really well for a couple of weeks, they fall off the wagon, and all the little gains that they made in that time period are lost so quickly because they haven't got that solid foundation. So if you do what I'm talking about in this video and you build that solid foundation where that you can go 3 times a week, that you can add in a little bit of strength conditioning, maybe a little bit of mobility work, maybe a little bit of stretch work, and you know that that's ingrained in your life, that you'll keep that going forwards. When you do start adding to it, if that doesn't work out for a while, or if you fall off the wagon like we all do sometimes, I'm currently off the wagon, but I know now I've kind of reintroduced myself. For me, I'm running 5 times a week, 35 minutes. And for me, that's really easy. I can do that. It's very achievable. And as I do that, I can build on it. But if you don't have that base where you know that you can fall back on your kind of standard amount of exercise that you do a week, then what happens is when you change too much and you don't have that stability, that foundation, then when you do fall off the wagon, you just end up doing nothing. And like I said, you lose all your gains, but more importantly, you lose all the health benefits that you've built up over the couple of weeks where you have been trying to be fit and healthy. So Start off really small. Don't go all in, go half in. If you're changing your diet, just change one or two things around one or two meals. Don't try and overhaul the whole thing. Don't give yourself these kind of grandeur ideas that you're going to give up alcohol and you're not going to socialize and you're not going to eat crisps and you're not going to eat fast food. And never say never, you just never know what life throws, And most people, like I said, are really busy. If you're watching this channel, you're probably over 40 and into some sort of exercise, and so you may or may not have some children, but you know that they throw up challenges yourself, and different things come at you at different times, so you have to just kind of take it as it goes. So I plan to be healthy and to run all the time, but it doesn't always work out quite like I should. But I don't beat myself up. I don't put these specific kind of rules myself that I can't do this, can't do that. I take life as it comes. I have my foundation where I know my kind of fallback on is I know I can run 4 times a week, 35 minutes without even thinking about it. That fits into my life kind of quite easily. When I'm building up to a race, I can actually bring that way up and do a lot more distance time. But for the most part, that's what I fall back on when I'm struggling, or if I'm taking downtime, or if life gets too busy. That's what I revert to, and I know I can keep that going. And that it then becomes more about holding on to what you have instead of kind of losing what you have. So instead of, at the moment, I'm not looking at progressing in terms of my running. I'm not looking for any progress. I'm just looking at kind of holding on to that fitness that I built up last year, all the health gains and benefits that I built up from all the running I did last year. For these January, I'm just trying to hold on to that. Once I settle back into running 4 times a week for 35 minutes, I know I can build on it and then get myself better from there. And that's the plan for me for this year. I hope all that made sense. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments there below and I will get back to them. If anybody has any specific videos you want to talk about, me to come on and talk about, send me an email at runsensible@gmail.com. And yeah, we'll see if we go up now to a quick thing in there. If you're struggling with knee pain, do you think it's best to cut down on running volume and focus on strengthening mobility for a bit, because it's normally a weakness? It's normally a weakness elsewhere that causes it. I would say, so thanks for that comment, Lainey. I would say if you can still run, even with the knee pain, I would say probably keep a bit of running if you're a runner. I always tell my patients to use like the scale of 1 to 10. So if the pain is in around between 1 and 4 out of 10, I tell people to proceed with caution. So just do some easy running, okay? So that's if it's 1 to 10. If the pain is more than kind of 4, 5, or 6 out of 10, that's we kind of say proceed with caution. I certainly wouldn't be doing any intervals or specific stuff if the pain was up around 5 or 6. Anything more than 6 out of 10, so we'll go 7, 8, 9, 10, then absolutely don't run. But if you can run, if you're able to run and the pain is like 1, 2, 3 out of 10, I routinely run where I have pain that's like 1 or 2 out of 10 pain on the scale of 1 to 10, whereas 1 is not a lot of pain and 10 is a lot of pain. Probably just make that clear. But yeah, if the pain is really getting you and it's kind of getting you down and it's holding you back, then yes, maybe reduce the running. But I would say if you can keep running a bit, do. And then, yeah, try some other sort of crossing. Try walking is probably a good thing to do on some of the days that you run. And try and do some strength and mobility work if you want. But this is the thing I see in clinic all the time. And it's like, you said it there a bit, because this, should I focus on strengthening and mobility for a bit because it's normally weakness elsewhere that causes it? This is something that gets thrown around that there's not any research that shows that. So people think that weakness is causing their pain. So being weak doesn't cause your pain. So I get people coming into me all the time saying, I went to see this physio or another osteo or a sports massage person or a running coach, whatever. And they said it's my weakness, my glutes is causing my back pain or weakness. So there is no evidence that if you go through any of the research, no evidence to back that up, that weakness causes pain. There are lots of people who are pretty weak that run that don't have any pain. So that kind of throws it at the window. But what you can have sometimes is a little bit of a muscular imbalance. And I see this with runners a lot. It's like if people are doing a lot of hill work, they can kind of build strength in like some muscles, say the quads and the hamstrings, if they did a lot of uphill running. And then you get a little bit of imbalance where their quads, it's not that the quads are weak, it's that their quads aren't strong in relation to the other muscles. So there's a bit of an imbalance there. So doing some cross training in the gym would really help with that. So just doing a medley of exercises from squats to lunges, leg press, leg curls, leg extensions. And I would say to people, just do a medley of stuff. Do as many different exercises as you can. if you're squatting, do wide squats, goblet squats, feet together squats, as many as you can. Just mix it around. That's probably a good thing if you're having a little bit of knee pain to do that. I hope that stuff makes sense. You can definitely do a lot of stretching around it as well, and mobility. I'm always doing mobility. You can never go wrong doing a little bit of mobility work. So if you do have an injury, doing mobility is probably going to be something that kind of helps you quite a bit. Yeah, I hope that helps. I hope that answers your question. If anybody else watching this at a later date has any questions, pop them in the comments below. I'll get back to them. I'm going to wrap this up because I think I've pretty much said everything I want to say. And that should help some people. I hope it does. If it does, please let me know. And in the meantime, you know what to do before I'm back on, guys. Run far, run fast, most of all, run sensible.